going to be Mega Base to start things out with. You can see on the Global Esports side, the green, perhaps starting Kephrii on the Widow here. It is going to be quite interesting. We haven't quite seen Widow played on this map so far. Giant Esports, though, it's going to be the Rhine Goats.
I do hope this doesn't become trying to force a square peg through a round hole, but we'll have to wait and see. Giant is kind of rotating around on this top side, trying to take a high ground.
You actually see Kephrii's positioning here. This is a nice rotation by Global Esports because now they're giving sight lines to Kephrii, which is going to offer a lot of free damage. It's already got 52% charge.
And actually the pressure that was put on Giant did allow Global Esports Pantheon to start getting aggressive, and we're just kind of seeing the results of that. Giant have had to start backing off, and this has given Pantheon a lot of free space.
Now, Giant now going into their next push, they need to be able to apply some pressure to Kephrii, which is why you see now Pt.2's going to play the Winston instead. Him pairing up with Sun Series here means that they can actually dive Kephrii, maybe secure that kill, or at least force him to reposition.
Now just trying to come down on the slow ground. They kind of end up going right into Kephrii's sideline, but they do put a bit of pressure on him, forced to drop down for the time being. This means Global Esports going to try and make some kind of wrap around here. This is where the Widowmaker can be a little bit of a problem, though, because you see Giant can take something of another advantage on the ground. Kephrii in a bit of a tight spot here is alive for now, but can't say the same for Water. And now you definitely can't say that for Kephrii either. And actually, Giant kind of hit back here.
We need to see Global Esports now consider maybe Kephrii swaps to Zarya. Inhyoke's only 50% of the way to the Shadow, which is a bit of an issue as well. The advantage here for this composition versus the Winston version of Goats is that you can play the Shadow into the Winston quite effectively, and Inhyoke's taking a long time to go down here as the cap does eventually go over the Giant.
I can understand pushing that percentage point out further, but when Giant are playing the full Goats here and Global Esports aren't, that extra ult charge and the macro economy that it gives to Giant is really costly for Global Esports Pantheon.
And by the way, I lie, Sakura is actually already playing the Zarya, so the only option here for Kephrii is probably the Deep. The grab is available and used.
There it is, right onto a good number of people. It's going to be self-destruct thrown forward, Transcendence, and the shield keeps everyone safe. Now counter grab finds Mushroom, and Pt.2 pops his Transcendence. Sound barrier as well. Might have been an overcommit, but they do pick Water, which means Giant do retain control for now.
Global Esports needs to find a way to get back onto the point here. They have to rotate out and play the same sight lines that they were giving to Kephrii in that initial push, because right now, Kephrii doesn't really have great angles. He's at 41%, and if you watch this percentage bar, you'll sort of see his kind of impact as we go through.
Like I said, I hope this doesn't become trying to fit a square peg into a round hole with the Widow pick. Now, just taking a very aggressive maneuver on the low ground. Giant forced to kind of scatter a little bit now, trying to regroup, isolate some members of GE Pantheon, and it works. Between the tank line, they're able to pick a good number here. Kephrii the only one to get a counter trade, and this is such an unfortunate sightline for him. There's so little he can do. Giant staying in control.
Part of the issue here is you don't want to see Global Esports just waiting for picks from their Widowmaker. They need to be forcing the issue a little bit more. They're the ones that need to be pressuring the point, because Giant Esports are kind of getting away with a decent amount of progress. They're the ones that are happy to wait right now. Global Esports, they are going to make the rotation, and this should open up sidelines for Kephrii.
And again, Global Esports did try and get aggressive there, but like you said, it's all about actually opening up sightlines on top of that. Sergeant God popped on his back. They do keep him alive just for a little bit longer. They're able to save him. Now with the Transcendence as well, popping that just later than Backwall did. Now Giant need to find their way to turn this back in their favor. Oh, I didn't say back in their favor. It's in no one's favor just yet. Sakura low. Sergeant God holding on to this grab as we hit 99%. If Giant can find a way to pull the trigger and get a bunch of kills, they're in a good spot, but Pt.2 goes down. Traded with Inhyoke though. That's going to be the grab from Sakura. Self-destruct laid out in response from Sun Series rather, and it does pick up one. Giant, they're in an okay spot. It's only Kephrii and Backwall. They're off the point. Giant going to pick up mech base.
You actually see that Inhyoke had the solo shadow on Sergeant God, who was playing the Zarya. That's a decent ultimate usage, because if you take Sergeant off the table, the grab is also taken off the table, so they were attempting to make sure they had that 6 versus 5 advantage, which is very important because, again, they were also trying to play this Widowmaker, so in terms of actually playing the 3-3 Goats, they had 5 out of 6 members for Goats. Giant had 6. Take Giant down notch here, put them onto 5 as well, and suddenly things start to look a little bit better. But it's that middle section that really hurt for Global Esports, where just kind of caught up in their spawn chokes, couldn't quite get out, couldn't find any angles for Kephrii, and now we're going to go to downtown. It's going to give Widowmaker another go. At least this time, though, this is a much better map for a Widowmaker to play on.
Yeah, that's the real change here. I think Mecha Base is probably one of the most difficult maps, certainly the hardest map on Busan, I would say, to play the Widowmaker on. Kephree's got a lot more high ground, a lot more open space to play with, but nice approach by Giant to kind of avoid the sightlines.
And Giant are going to go straight for the point here. This is a problem for Global Esports because they will be forced to immediately address the point as well. Kephrii doesn't have the geometry that he really wants as Global Esports going to make the long rotation around.
So they're effectively in a 5 versus 6 now because Kephree's still coming to rejoin the team. Pt.2's already here, but Pt.2's low. And actually Kephree's able to find that one as Pt.2 tried to retreat. Now Sun Series popped out of the mech. So Giant, they played that well, but they took just a bit too much hurt. Didn't quite make the back rotation quick enough. Global Esports Pantheon get the drop on them.
Global Esports right now, they do have this initial fight win, but for Giant Esports, they are playing a sort of composition that can still deal with Kephrii. They have Pt.2 on the Winston, Sun Series on the Diva as well. What they can actually opt for here in the next fight even is play the 5 versus 5 on the ground and commit a player to constantly keep Kephrii in check. That could be Sun Series, that could be Pt.2.
Last time though it was Pt.2, and unfortunately it left him out in the cold a little bit as the rotation came, so let's see how Giant changed things up this time.
First ultimate coming online is
oh dear.
Water. It's already a 6v5 advantage. Giant probably just going to look to back out here if they can.
But I don't know if they can. I mean, look at how this is going. Now they're just wanting to run down the tanks. This is huge for Global Esports Pantheon, completely shutting Giant out here.
What I will say about running the Widowmaker on a map like this against a team that is running a 3-3 is Pt.2's life is very, very difficult here. He's got to really watch out for sightlines particularly, because he's going to be the #1 target in a lot of fights for Kephrii to take down. As the infra sight comes through as well, he's going to give a lot of information over to Global Esports.
Giant don't really have much at their disposal here, we've got to say. And there is that pain on Pt.2. The Earth Shatter is actually what secures the kill, but that's a huge shot that Kephrii landed to set that one up, and suddenly there's nothing Giant have in response. Rocket has to take a dive, and Global Esports looking pretty unstoppable here.
To be fair, Giant Esports actually trying to make the rotation around. Fighting there is probably a lot more ideal than fighting out in the open. That's the only place in the map really that Giant Esports can secure a nice 6 versus 5 fight, but Inhyuk with the Earth Shatter advantage, also against the Winston being played by Pt.2. Mentioned before how easy those shatters can be to land.
Now Giant, they do have some ultimates coming up on rotation. That's going to be very important, especially with that Earth Shatter no longer a factor. This is where the Winston can start to pay off a bit more, but they're still going to find a way to approach and make sure those ults land. Grab out from Sakura. Counted out by the grab from Pt.2 for the time being. Now it's Giant's turn to get aggressive. Inhyuk getting low, but saved by that Transcendence there. Self-destruct and grab, throw it in the mix. Neither really collecting the kills necessary, and Pt.2's down without using a Primal Rage. Giants now losing Mushroom, and the rest of the members just getting pressured out. Nice counter trade onto back wall, but that Earth Shatter is looking like it's going to be secured. Don't even really need the Earth Shatter when all said and done. It's just Pt.2 alone on the point now. 99-0 will be how Global Esports Pantheon look to secure.
They got to get the 100-0 as well. Giant Esports don't have enough reinforcements here. You can start to see how this composition is shaping out. It definitely works much better on downtown than it does on Jamaica base. What you can sort of see from this is Kephrii gets to take a long sideline. He gets to play basically free shooting Widowmaker the entire time. All Global Esports need to do is make sure they are taking fights and preferably using Graviton Surges in a location where Kephrii can still see targets, because he ended up getting a decent amount of picks there, and he only needs to get 1 pick to justify his existence as Widowmaker, because then the rest of the team is playing the 5 versus 5 with the goats on top of the point, with Kephrii then still doing free damage. It's technically then a 6v5.
I really like what Global Esports are doing here. This is a team composition that really gets enabled on Sanctuary. Giant are still going to stick with the GOATs, this time Reinhardt version, while Global Esports Pantheon, they're running a lot of disrupt, a lot of splash damage. They're really just trying to set up for Kephrii to find headshots.
And if not, then it's going to be Water here as well. This is very much going to be mostly a counter Goats comp. Inhyuk onto the Hammond as well. Going to get the pop-ups. Should find some easy headshot combinations with Kephrii there, so look for that combo.
Again, Giant really had to pay respect to any kind of sightline from both Water and Kephrii, and it's hard to avoid both because you've got Water in the sky, you've got Kephrii on the ground sniping out Rocket there. And Giant, they're just kind of falling apart here, didn't even get a chance to approach.
And this is the thing where Pt.2 now basically has to change onto the Winston. There's kind of 3 players that he needs to think about here. You don't want to be playing the Ryan into the Hammond first off. You definitely don't want to be playing Ryan into Afara, and you definitely don't want to be playing Ryan into the Widowmaker either. So everything is working against Pt.2. He's forced to go into the Winston here, and there's already a decent advantage for Global Esports. Kephrii and Water are going to get the first ultimates.
Man, Giant are taking so much free damage here. It's really rough to see. Look at the ult charge on Water and Kephrii.
You need to see Giant possibly get a dive onto backwall if possible. It's him or Sakura, because everyone else is so slippery.
Now Water's just going to look in to find an angle. I mean, this is still not a potential approach for Giant. Look at how exposed they are out here, just waiting for the barrage. Throws it out point blank, picks up 2. Sun Series not quick enough to react to that one, unfortunately. Water does at least go down, but I mean, the damage has been done here. Giant do not have a way to stay in this fight.
It's a big problem for Sun Series. Just kind of caught napping there, and he wasn't even slid by the Ana, just wasn't aware of Water's positioning, which is an issue because Water was raining down rockets. You could tell where the damage was coming from, and he was just completely caught off guard, really uncharacteristic of most D.Va players currently in this meta. Giant still scratching their heads, still really finding it difficult to find their way in. The good news for them is at least a couple of the big ultimates are gone, or rather the one big barrage ultimate has to be the one they have to look out for. The issue for Giant is they haven't built up really much of their own yet.
Again, Kephrii just kind of getting free sightlines here. Water allowed to go very aggressive. And Giant aren't really mitigating much of this damage. If anything, they're remaining very split up. You can understand the desire to do that against the AoE damage with the Pharah, but it's allowing for picks like this, where the barrage comes out on a D-making D.Va. You're able to pick up the rest of the mech, the D.Va themselves, and the rest of Giant have to scatter to the 4 wins.
And this is the point now where you have to start considering maybe Giant should have just played dive to start with. Forget the goats, forget the 3-3, play the standard 2-2 and 2. It's a lot of hindsight. We're now at 95%. There's no way they can change anymore. They just have to play with what they got, and what they got is not enough.
And once again, even one of the tanks getting picked off right at the outset of the fight. This time they trade back with Water though, so a little bit more recoverable. Finding Medic as well. This is now a good fight for Giant in spite of the loss of Sergeant God earlier. In fact, they've already flipped the point. The fight's still kind of going here. They'll be able to get a late kill on back wall. Might even be able to force someone like Kephrii or any shock out. Man, Sergeant God not having a great day.
Yeah, he spawns, he dies, he spawns, he dies directly to Kephrii straight away.
Tom Cruise movie.
The bigger problem here is losing Water for Global Esports. That was probably the kill that lost them the point. Kephrii is just going to be as annoying as possible. Wow, he actually managed to raise.
Yet to trade in that situation is so important for Global Esports Pantheon. The loss of Rocket really helps Giant here, that extra healing, but Pt.2 keeping this one alive with a nice kill onto Medic. Good sleep, but again, the damage has now been done. Sakura really low is backing out. Water's taken some hurt. They will get out alive. That's the difference between them and Giant in these fights, but Giant are still in control for now.
And this is going to be a difficult graviton to use because there's not just this big ball of heroes and players for Global Esports where Sergeant God can just chuck it into the middle and get everybody. He's got to make some hard choices here. He probably has to focus Graviton on Inhyuk or Sakura. They're going to be the most easy members to hit.
There's Water just kind of throwing his lot right in, backs out, finds his way onto Pt.2 instead. Pt.2 having to back so far away from his team, isn't able to affect the fight, but good pressure on the backside thanks to Sun Series. He does take some pain for his trouble, and Pt.2's only just rejoining now, so Sun Series gets D-Mech before he gets healed up, but now Water's got the angle for free. Mushroom as well gets picked off by a headshot in the mix of all that, and Pt.2 finally kind of here, but it's kind of a little bit late, as hard as that is to say. Sun Series ends up getting finished off now, and Global Esports Pantheon have still not actually lost anyone, despite how low so many people got there. 99% now, burning away is the wick. This will be a very late contest by Pt.2. This is Giant still at a massive disadvantage for the fight.
Yeah, they don't have anything to use here. Sergeant God doesn't quite have a Graviton Surge. Even if he did, the Graviton Surge value is very low. This should just be now a very basic cleanup for Global Esports, and it should be 1-0 in the series.
Yeah, ultimately that was just Giant trickling on in the end there. That was quite a peculiar control, I have to say.